Hi guys. All right, so I think we've got quite a few people in here, so I think we're good to get started. So today we are talking about producing music for film and TV and everything that goes into this, this field and this really amazing space in music, right? So we're going to start off by going around and having our panelists give a little bit of backstory on who they are, what they do, and their role in the industry, and kind of how they came up. So we can start with you, Marti, if you want to go ahead.
Sure, absolutely. Hello, everybody. I'm Marti Amado. If you know me on Facebook, I also go by Marti Amado Core. My business is Amado Music LLC. And I have been an independent composer, arranger, and music producer for just over 25 years. So I've been doing this for a really long time, and I love it. And I do a lot of work with independent artists and help them to arrange and produce and record their material in the studio. And then I also write and co-write original music for film, TV, and advertising.
Amazing. And then we have the wonderful Hannah.
Oh, hi. I'm Hannah King. I am in London, so hi. Nice to connect with you guys over there. I am the co-founder of a music supervision and composer management agency called We Are Golden. A little bit about my journey. Studied music, played violin and piano and kind of various instruments. Did a music degree, did a master's in music, and I'm 45, so back then we probably didn't know too much about the film and TV kind of side of things. So I happened to meet somebody, this amazing woman called Claire Bourne, who basically produces music for adverts, and she was doing a session with John Adams, and it was revealed to me that you could work in a role where you were basically working with music and film and TV, and it was an absolute revelation. So I then went on to work as a score producer for film, TV and drama, and then work for EMI Music Publishing, working on their production music division, and ended up kind of as their global creative manager. Was there for 13 years, running all the production music, creative side of things. Left and set up my own company 7 years ago. We do a massive range of stuff just because I'm kind of slightly ADHD, but it's basically everything from, we produce bespoke music for TV, film, advertising, production music. We music supervise as well. We help on the publishing side, exploitation of work. So we kind of cover everything to do with music and picture. And that's the area of the industry that I love. And I'm just so pleased to be here to kind of talk about it. So I think it doesn't get as much exposure as it tends, everything else in the music industry. And it's an amazing industry to work in.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Hannah. And then we have the amazing Christina May. You want to take it off?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Christina May. I'm the film and TV music director, producer at FirstCom Music, which is a division of UMPG. We are a production music library licensing music for film, TV, trailers, documentaries, advertisements, you name it. Within my role, it's my responsibility to facilitate client requests for music by searching our catalog for applicable music and pitching anything that might fit their request. In addition to pitching the library, I also executive produce music for the release in the library. So as an executive producer, I will establish a concept for an album or a song, A&R and recruit a team of writers and artists, and then oversee the development of the project.
That's super interesting. I wanted to touch on quickly that we are using the chat functionality to your right. This is where we're going to be pulling in questions from. So as we go along, feel free to put your questions in there. We'll be looking there and pulling in your questions to these lovely ladies. We definitely encourage everybody to use this as a way to network with each other as well as these awesome experts. So feel free to share your Instagrams, your emails in the chat box, and we can all kind of connect after this and stay in touch. If you have questions that maybe didn't get answered, you can feel free to reach out to our panelists and learn a little bit more. So I kind of wanted to start off, by talking, obviously She Is the Music, and our goal is to really bring together the gender disparity gap of women in music. So one of the things I wanted to kind of touch on is get a little sense of your experience being a woman in music, and have you touch on a few of the stereotypes that you may have experienced as a woman in your role, knowing that you are all kind of the wild cards and you are outnumbered in a lot of the day-to-day work that you're doing. So, if you could share, a scenario or part of an experience of working as a woman in music production, I think that would be really helpful for a lot of our viewers. So Marti, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Wow, that was a lot. Where do I start? Okay, if I respond to what kind of stuck out for me is the sort of the inequality or sort of the gender difference that I experienced working in the industry. Can I address that, Taylor? And if there's something else, jump in and say, how about this? Okay.
You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. So I also have a music degree, and I remember when I was finishing up my music program, my advisor sat down with me and said, I just want you to know that you're going to probably spend most of your career being the only woman in the room. Are you okay with that? And I was like, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I wanted to do this. I loved music and I loved writing, and I got bit by the studio bug really early on, and I knew I wanted to be in the studio. So I was like, well, if that's what's involved, I guess that's how it's going to be. That's fine. Also, I've been doing this. I mean, I'm in my early 50s. I started doing this over 25 years ago. Things were very, very different than they are now, as far as like, it was not about inclusivity. I was a unicorn, and that was fine. But I had some experiences very early on, and it was kind of a double whammy for me. I started out producing music in Chicago, which is a big advertising market. Mm-hmm. And I actually came out of music school in Chicago and started working with some of the big ad agencies producing national commercial campaigns, music with, amazing Chicago symphony players and things like that. When I relocated to Southern California, I was like 24, 25. And my first session, I will never forget my first session in Southern California. I was producing a rhythm section session with a bunch of guys from LA who were like 10 years older than I was. And I was this young 24-year-old blonde girl telling people what to do, and they didn't all like it that much. And I actually had the engineer for my session, when I walked in and I met him, like the first thing he said to me is that your real hair color? Which, okay, funny now, but right now nobody can say that because it's not okay. But then it was just like, that was what he said, and he was trying to be funny. I think he was trying to break the ice, but it was like, okay, whatever. And I also had a lot of, like, in the early days, from older guys that were very well established session players in LA, comments like, when I would ask the guitar player, I won't use any names, very prominent guitar player in LA, when I asked him to try a part a couple different ways, I got comments like, okay, lady, where do you want the couch? So yeah, gasp, right? I mean, nobody would ever say anything like that now, but I got that stuff all the time. And I won't use the actual word, but somebody told me in those early days, took me aside and said, if you ever don't know what to say when somebody says something rude to you, just say F, only they didn't just say F, just say F you really loud and walk away. And Christina can attest to the fact that I probably practice that advice to this day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a very different world, and I just had to develop a thick skin. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I loved the process so much, and I loved creating in the studio so much that I just didn't let it deter me. It was like, you know, I'm going to have to just get over it. I probably went home and cried about the, is that your real hair color comment? And, you know, boo-hooed and, and got over it. Now, of course, it's a very different world, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm very thankful to younger women that are coming into the industry that it is a different world now, because I think it's a better world.
Thanks to women like you, honestly, helping pave the way.
Well, again, it's like being a woman was not a thing. It was just kind of like, well, I just happen to be one. And this is what I do. And for me, it was always just a matter of working so hard to improve my skill so that nobody could disrespect. I mean, you know, they could say whatever they want about my hair color, but nobody was going to give me crap once I walked into the studio because I always knew my stuff.
Yeah.
And hilariously, one other story, and then I'll turn the floor back over, but sometime fairly recently, like I would say in the last 10 years, I was producing a session, and I mean, I was pretty well established in my career by that time and done lots and lots of sessions. And I had a session player walk in that hadn't worked with me before and said, "Oh, hi, are you the singer?"
Of course.
And I just kind of smiled and I said, "No, I'm writing your check."
Judge a book by its cover.
So yeah, you kind of have to have a sense of humor, you know?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. But also, you know, those are the moments that make or break us, right? And they make us stronger, and they fuel us, right? And it gives us a little bit of joy to be like, I'm the one writing the check, right? Those are the things that help us
More than
Yeah.
a little. More than a
Absolutely.
little.
What about you, Hannah? What are some
Yeah.
key moments in your career as a woman that helped shape and define who you are now in your career?
I mean, a lot of what I was going to say, I would completely agree with you. But I think for whatever reason, it's luck or not luck, I don't know. I mean, I was brought up by single parents. My mum brought me up, and she's, you know, worked in advertising, was a producer, and was pretty tough. So I think I just got brought into that whole kind of, you know, creative industries and sessions, and just kind of just getting on with it and not putting up with any, you know, crap. But definitely, I think when I was like starting to produce or work on sessions when I was like 22, 23, I think a lot of the writers thought I was, you know, the assistant and the PA who was booking their taxis. And it was exactly the same thing. I mean, and I can't agree more. I mean, I think, you know, it's possibly something in my nature, so it probably doesn't apply to everybody, but I think it just worked harder and really made sure that I'd done my homework and knew everything that I was doing when I was walking into those sessions, because it was not the voice that anyone was expecting at the back of the room to be telling everybody what to do. And also a bit in a kind of fun way, it just becomes like kind of like quite funny that it's novelty and you just start enjoying it. And so yeah, it was a challenge, but it was never that bad. And it was kind of like, I think if you're strong, you know what you're doing, and you've really done your homework, then actually it's quite fun. But again, I'm not sure if that comes from, you know, having a strong mum as a kind of role model, basically. I think probably for me, if I was going more into the kind of like corporate kind of, you know, publishing kind of big, you know, music industry side of things, I think I definitely felt very strongly that I needed to, as well as being a really good creative, also really understand the business. And this I can't recommend strongly enough. And so I ended up, when I was at EMI, I ended up doing a kind of a master's in business as well. I just really wanted to be able to be in the room in those conversations that were being run, and being able to not just be the creative, but really be able to understand everything else that was going on in the industry and the business as well. So I just think, and I'm not sure if that comes naturally to girls, or but I was definitely very conscious that it was something that I really needed to skill up on again. So it's probably back to kind of Marti's thing of like, really, you know, you have to work harder to know what you're going into and what you're doing, and make sure you've really done your homework.
But as being a creative,
yeah, and on that note, I suppose also the other thing I always think is really funny is generally people are like, you know, you go to conferences, you go to all the networking things, and everyone's always like, who do you work for? And I'm like, it's my business. And everyone's always like, oh. And I'm just like, yeah, what's the big deal? You know, but I don't know, maybe that's in my head, but I just, you know, you just have to stand your ground. I think that's,
absolutely
fun. It's fun, you know, it's never been bad. So
and those are those moments of gratification. And I do think it's important too, as a creative, you know, the reality of the situation is that you do need to know about the industry side of it. You know, you have to educate yourself. And there's this book, when I first started in the music industry, a friend of mine gave me this book, and it's like everything you need to know about the music industry, the way deals are done, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And it's like, you know, the music industry Bible. And I also find that a great thing to learn a little bit about the industry is reading Billboard magazine. It comes out every week. I have a subscription and I read it religiously, but it helps you keep up with the shifting and changing industry, and it goes and gives very good you know, synopsis and shows about what artists are doing and how they're being successful, and how they're, especially even with, you know, the state of where we are today with all of the COVID-19 and us being in quarantine. How is this situation changing the music industry, and how are artists and labels shifting and changing to accommodate, whether it's for the better or, you know, the people that are not on tour, right? How are they kind of shifting and doing things to, you know, it's very helpful in learning the industry. And when you know, you arm yourself with that knowledge, it gives you a leg up in a lot of situations. And it's definitely important, you know, as a female being, you know, having some aces up your sleeve.
Yeah, definitely. And that knowledge enables you to, you know, negotiate better, to be better informed when you're going into meetings. I mean, we have to do I'm sure Marti's the same, but, you know, a lot of what we have to do is doing a lot of research about the way that, you know, our TV production company's working, or our film agents, the film production company, you know, so it's like understanding where you are in that massive wheel, which tiny bit you are, and how hard you can push as that bit in the whole ecosystem. So I think that's pretty important.
Also, Hannah, I just wanted to say that I love the artwork behind you.
I saw that.
Yeah, sorry.
Women empowerment. I love it.
Yeah, okay, whatever. There's a really cool one from Detroit behind as well. I'll turn it that way.
And then I'd love to give Christina, you want to take the floor and touch on your experience.
Well, just sort of like piggybacking on what Marti said, I think whether you're in the recording studio or the boardroom, I think we can all relate to being the only woman in the room. And on top of the sexism that comes with that, I think there's also a presumption that you can or you will bring like the female perspective to a conversation. And I think that comes with like, as if we all feel the exact same way on any given subject, which is obviously not the case. And while I'm happy to always be asked, the assumption can get kind of frustrating. So, you know, and also on top of that, my age is sometimes a factor. So oftentimes I'm also the youngest person in the room. And you'd think that would be a good thing, but that comes with its own set of stereotypes as well. Being, you know, whether you're not as educated or not as experienced, you know, that's sometimes a box that you can be put in.
Absolutely. So I'm seeing some questions in the comments. Let's see.
Hopefully it's not about my artwork.
There's a good one. Okay, so this is from Yancy Garcia to all panelists. The question is, for music production, what do you recommend someone who's just starting to use DAWs do and make sure that the sound is clear and good quality? So it's a bit technical question. Does anybody have an answer?
Hannah, do you want to take it, or I mean, I can share
No.
what DAW, by
Yeah,
the
I
way.
know. That's kind of what I was wondering as well. I'm not sure.
It's just an acronym for digital audio workstation, and it
Yeah.
just refers to the platform that people are using to program in, whether it be Logic, Pro Tools, Digital Performer, or something else. And I actually happen to use Digital Performer, which I don't think a lot of people use, but it's just the one that I'm the most comfortable with. Hannah, I'm just curious, what platform do you use when you're composing and programming?
So we probably, it's kind of, it doesn't seem to make any difference at all, to be honest. I mean, you know, I'm generally kind of, yeah, I'm not working on the software side, so
Okay.
it's not something that I can actually comment
Okay.
on. But I think,
Well,
you know,
I agree with Hannah's comment that it doesn't really matter which platform you use. Find one that's comfortable for you, that's intuitive for you to move around in and create in, because that's kind of the point. It's a tool, and you sort of want to not be able to have to be stressing so much about how to use the tool that you can't be creative. There was something in the question about how to make sure that the sound is really clear. You know, that's basic, like, engineering audio production stuff, and I am by no means an engineer, but I know enough. I have a writing and production suite in my home, and I can do broadcast mixes from my home. I actually had an engineer come over who that's what they specialize in, is electrical engineering, and they wired my studio up, and they come over and get things cleaned up every once in a while. But it's important to just have clean signal path. Make sure you're using a good quality microphone if you're recording a vocal or an instrument, and that you understand signal path, or if you don't, that you can have someone come over and help you and just make sure that that's a clean path getting what you're recording, whether it be acoustic instruments or voices, or if you're recording program material into the computer and then bounced out. That's basically the procedure. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that, you know, we're open to technical questions as well as industry questions. I, not being a producer or engineer, you know, defer to you guys on the acronyms and the, you know, the technical pieces. So in the chat, if you guys have more technical questions, feel free to drop them. Industry questions as well. I just got a really good question. What is your best day working in your position? So a moment that you, you know, a defining moment in your career, right? For, you know, a project you were working on, or a big moment for you. You have anything, Christina?
Sure. Honestly, days like today. We recently launched a female initiative at FirstCom, and this was sort of our #1 goal, you know, to collaborate with organizations such as She Is the Music. So to be involved in a discussion like this and to have the outreach that we do with conversations and panels like this is monumental in my career and where I'd like to see myself going. So today is a huge thing for me.
Yay! What about you, Hannah? Best day of your
what would be what was the question? Like what a perfect day, or like?
Yeah, the best, you would say the best day of your career.
Oh wow. There's so many. I feel very lucky to say that. I think I might just answer my own question. And I'd say for me, I think creatively, like a perfect day. I mean, I literally, I love the whole kind of, you know, problem solving with around music and picture, and how music works with picture, and how to make music work with picture, and how to interpret what somebody wants and talk to composers. I guess we work across so many different things. So it's, you know, soccer's like quicker, features are much longer. And I suppose in a way, working across the ad stuff, which is so quick and tight and tough, I guess my perfect day would probably be working, you know, on a feature project where we've got a massive amount of lead time. You know, we get to work one-on-one with the director. We get to really understand and get inside his head and really like realize somebody's musical vision, I suppose. And actually that's probably the crux of all of those things that I just started out. But it's like, it's, for me, it's about, you know, making somebody's, you know, what they had in their head or what they couldn't kind of, you know, speak about or spell out. It's making that kind of become a reality, really. And everything that I do basically kind of feeds into that. That's the kind of thing that I love.
So a couple minutes every day, not just one day.
Yeah,
What about you, Marti? You have anything that rings a bell?
So hard to choose. Same thing. It's like over 25 years of doing this and loving it most of the time. I love it. It's really hard to pick just one day. Like Hannah, I mean, I work a lot with independent artists, and one thing that I find super satisfying is when I hear an artist say, when we've finished arrangement and production on a song for them and it's mixed, and they say to me, it sounds exactly like I heard it in my head. That's like super satisfying. It's like, amazing. Which is awesome. It's like, because it's such a subjective world when you start talking about music, and how do you reach into somebody's skull and pull out, right, what their vision is, and make it 3-4 dimensional. And sometimes I don't do it great, and sometimes I do, and it's really satisfying when I do.
Are there specific projects, Marti, that you've worked on that you could elaborate on a little bit and give a little bit of context around, like, you know, specific projects you've worked on and maybe had that moment?
Oh my gosh. I brought lots, but there's actually one other thing I wanted to share, and I could elaborate. So this is a young artist who was Southern California based for a long time. He's now based out of Nashville, Tennessee. Artist, singer, songwriter, amazing guitar player, just an amazing talent. And I've collaborated with him a lot, and he's just a gem. And I had a really cool experience, which was a great day also in my career, where when he was really just getting started out, he was young, he was like in his early to mid 20s, and he had been working with another producer who's one of my top rivals. I will not use names, but was a rival producer, and just did not do a great job showcasing this artist's talent. The music just sounded awkward, and he had been trying to get radio airplay on it, and a bunch of radio people had told him that it wasn't radio ready, and so on and so forth. And so he came to me and said, I would really like to have you do this single with me, and I want it to sound radio ready and more commercial and more pop. And so he and I worked on it together and produced it, and we had a meeting with the radio people at a couple of stations, and I will never forget, because just watching the guy who had heard his previous efforts, and then we put this on, and like 2 seconds in, the guy just started like huge grin spread over his face, and he was like, you guys killed this. And that's, you know, that's very satisfying to hear that from people who hear a lot of music and get a lot of music submitted to them. I don't know, I have no idea, Taylor, is it practical to even play something by an artist? I have my website queued up. I don't know if I should screen share or not. What do you think?
Is it a video or is it just audio?
It's just audio.
I'm not sure how it would work. I mean, you can give it a whirl. If you...
Okay, this is all live, folks, so if it doesn't work, sorry. I do want to play this. So I'm going to do a little test. You guys tell me if you can hear this.
Cool.
Yes?
No.
Okay, I have to share computer audio. Stand by. Let me try one more thing. I was taught how to do this. Share screen. Share computer sound. This will be the last try. Share. Okay, guys, let me try this again. Now are you hearing it?
We were until you started talking.
seen everything. Every tough and tender face you bring. I know you when you're dressed to kill. I know your body's little secret thrills. Now something's different in your eyes, because they're full of lies. It don't look like you. Don't look like you.
And I will stop it there.
That was awesome.
Thank you. That was not the particular song, but that was the artist that I was talking about. His name is Tolan Shaw, and that clip that I just played is an original song that he and I co-wrote and I co-produced with a collaborator in LA. And we actually just found out that that song was placed in the Netflix drama Unorthodox. So that was fun to find out.
I love that show. Was so good.
I haven't seen it yet, but now of
I've
course
not seen it
yeah,
yet
I
either.
gotta.
Oh,
Me too.
I binge watched it. I stayed up to like 3 a.m. one night and watched the entire thing.
Oh, really? Oh, wicked. Okay, I'll definitely watch it then.
That's awesome, Marty. Congrats on the
Yeah.
placement.
Yeah, it was really good.
Christina, have you had any placements that you are particularly like super proud of?
Oh, let me think. There's so many. You know, one of the biggest struggles we have as a library business is we don't always know where our music lands until like months and months afterwards. Trying to think.
Is that
Any big promo? Sorry, go ahead.
Is that typically the like? Is that typical of having like like those longer lead times? Obviously, because you're dealing with film and you're dealing with production.
Yeah, and a lot of times we just don't know. Like at 1 minute we know that, you know, a song is locked, and then the next minute something happened and the director wanted something else, and it's now the songs got pulled. So it's hard to tell like when we know something's going to be for sure. But I think anytime there's a huge like big network promo placement, for me, like that's huge. Hannah and I did a project a couple of years ago, and there was a big placement. I think it was just in the UK, Hannah, but it was a women's soccer promo, and it was like a huge placement. It was the full song, and it was scored really, really well. So that was really cool.
So this is a question that I was seeing in the comments, but do you have any advice for independent producers who are looking to submit work to like legitimate companies? Says that she's been using something called Taxi Music and Song Trader. Is there any other hacks or tips for trying to, as an independent, or if you're just starting, how you can submit your music to these companies?
Well, a lot of production music libraries have music submission links where you can go and send links to all of your work, whether a little bio,
Direct to them.
Yeah, directly through to the music libraries. And honestly, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Pitch your music to these libraries. Take advantage of every opportunity that you can, such as this one even, to connect with individuals and other aspects of the industry that you might not have imagined yourself a part of. For songwriters and producers, music libraries can be a very legitimate secondary or even primary source of income. So, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'll just follow up on that. I don't, so we work with loads and loads of writers, and actually, funnily enough, I don't really know that many people that have kind of spoken well about the kind of those platforms that place cues. But I think maybe it is slightly more of a North American thing rather than a UK thing. So it's not something that I can really talk about. But just to follow up with what Christina said, so for example, in the UK here, so we have instead of like ASCAD at BMI, we have the PRS. The PRS have a website. It's our PRO, and so I'm sure it's the same thing in the US. But there's a list of all the production music libraries on the PRS site, And as Christina says, they've all got submissions links. And not only is it a really good primary, secondary, whatever kind of source of income it is for you, the production music side of things is a really amazing place to develop a relationship with the library. And also, if you want to explore writing genres of music that may not necessarily be your kind of, your first most comfortable. I think there's a lot of writers that I've worked with over the years that have learned so much from, literally sending in demos. And we've worked with them, developed a relationship with them, and they've kind of, they've been able to work across so many different genres of music. I think production music is an amazing place for people to really kind of, start. And also, I have to say this is one of the reasons I really wanted to do this panel. And Connie, who I work with at We Are Golden as well, we're really passionate about this. But as Christina says, put yourself out there, because it makes me furious, out of like 20 years or 25 years, and Connie worked at one of the biggest music supervision agencies in London, he was doing, like all the top ads. The number of women that we get sending us show reels or sending us demos is just, the numbers versus the men is absurd. And I think when we talk to girls about, why are you not sending stuff to us? It's it's almost like a lack of confidence thing, or I didn't think it's good enough, or I didn't want to work. I tell you what, girls, there's a lot of men sending in a lot of terrible demos. So please do get in contact with us, because, we really are here. And that's one of the, it's my main reason for kind of doing this in a way, is like, we really are here. We really want to work with more female composers. So I just think, exactly as Christina says, put yourself in places you didn't imagine you were going to be. So production music is definitely one of them. I think up and coming directors, film schools, anything like that, you can just basically put yourself in front of people. I'll stop talking now.
No, that's great advice.
And I would like to piggyback on what Hannah said, and I totally agree. I very recently spoke to a client who's become a good friend, I won't use names, but he's a VP of a very big music company up in LA that has numerous music production libraries. And we were talking about this. Why do you think it is that there are still such small numbers of women in production music relative to men? And what came out of that discussion was, well, because the guys are really aggressive.
Yeah.
About self-promotion,
yeah.
aggressive to the point of annoying was this person's comment. Like, they aren't afraid to be rude and get in your face and be like, listen to my stuff. And we can't stereotype. Some women are super brash and bold, and that's a great thing. But I think in general in this industry, women are a little bit more reserved about self-promotion. And frankly, you have to, I've always told people, find a way to be politely persistent.
Absolutely.
It is a persistence game, 100%. Years and years ago, when I wanted to expand my network of production music companies that I was working for, I sent out like 15 cold emails, and I had already been doing it for like 15 years. And I had a good reel. And I had one particular library in Europe that I really wanted to write for. And from the time I sent the first cold email, and I was referred to somebody else in the company, and then somebody else, and then I sent them my stuff, and then they listened, and I followed up 3 times. And then I actually got to meet them, and then they gave me work. The time from the first cold email to when I got the first job was 18 months.
Yeah.
So don't be daunted if it takes a lot of following up. This is just the part of the game. If you really want to do this, you have to be politely persistent. Find a nice, pleasant, make it a pleasure for people to talk to you, so they don't go, God, this person's annoying. They go, oh, I heard from so-and-so today. That was nice. Yeah. That's what this game is partly about, is giving people a reason to feel good about hiring you and wanting to spend time working with you, because there's lots of people out there that would like the work.
Yeah, I agree, totally. And just really quickly to rewind what you were talking about the aggressive, the level of aggression and pushiness doesn't necessarily always equate with talent.
Yeah, they're not afraid to be rejected.
So, I would say politely persistent is definitely the kind of the right thing. I think what's really important to remember, and it's taken me years to do this, and I don't know whether it's a female thing or not, but I'm gonna say it's a female thing. It's taken me ages to really get my head around the fact, and which is something that I think everybody that's writing and producing should be doing, is that you're providing a service to somebody like me, and also to your potential clients that's useful. You're actually solving a problem for me by being a good writer and coming to me with your work, because I need you. And I think it's just really important to always, think about, when you're sitting by yourself and you're like thinking, oh, I don't know whether to send this, is it good enough? Just have that kind of, flip it around a little bit and just realize that actually, not that you're a resource, please don't take that the wrong way, but just that you really, there's so many people like me, there's so many people who are, music supervisors, music producers who are working, who do really need to connect with you, and persistence is definitely one of those things. You've got to be persistent every month, just politely. Hi, have you listened to it yet?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm all for also the coffee dates, or setting up Zoom calls. I always find, from a networking perspective, it's the most impactful when you get some FaceTime, right? When somebody has a face to a name, and you can really, personalize yourself, and you're being forthright with your mission. A lot of people in the music industry are very busy, and there's a lot of juggling, so you have to break through that noise. So the persistence is very important, for sure. And a lot of people say, it's who you know, but you have to put yourself out there, and you have to make those connections yourself.
Definitely, I couldn't second that more. It's not who you know, it's who you get to know, and it's all got to be about you, 100%.
Yeah, and don't be afraid of rejection, because there will be a lot of it.
Yeah, that's cool.
There is one question. It says, what do you wish you knew about the music industry when you were first starting out in your career? And is there anything that you would have done differently?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm really glad this question came up, because I was wanting to talk about this anyways. I learned from my stupidity, guys. So, it's funny, but we all live and we learn, right? We do the best we can. We make the decisions we think are right with the information available. And then when we learn something new, we make a better decision in the future. Years ago, before I knew better, I signed some really bad contracts. This goes to the point of understanding the business and the publishing part of this industry, because yes, I love the music. It's creative. It's my passion. Secretly, don't tell anybody, guys, but I would do this. No, I wouldn't do this if they didn't pay me, but I would consider it. But bottom line is, it's the music business. This is how I buy groceries, and this is how I pay my mortgage. This is a business. And the more you can understand the business part of the industry, the more sustainable your creating music will be for you. Years ago, again, won't use names, I wrote some music for a production music library in Los Angeles that had a writer's agreement that was very unfavorable to composers, but I didn't realize it at the time, because I hadn't worked for that many companies with that type of agreement. So I basically wrote a lot of stuff. I wrote 2 or 3 albums worth of stuff for this particular library. Is it okay to get into some detail about publishing? Is that too, I don't know, I think you're muted, Taylor, but okay, it's okay.
Sorry, yes.
Okay. So not to open too much of a can of worms in regards to publishing, but essentially, and Hannah, Christina, jump in if you guys have different experience, but in my experience, there are basically 2 models, business models for production music libraries. The American model tends to be that there is some sort of upfront commission fee paid to the composer producer for creating the work. Then the composer retains their share of performance royalties, which means the money that you receive through BMI or ASCAP or CSAC or whatever your performing rights organization is. They do not share sync fees, and sync, SYNCH, is short for synchronization. It's another word for licensing fee. It's basically the one-time fee that the production music company or the publisher receives from the user for syncing the music to picture. So the American companies do not generally share those, but the offset is that they pay an upfront commission fee, and then you keep your back end of performance royalties. The European model tends to be more that there is no upfront fee paid to composers. So you're basically putting your time, you're investing your time to compose, arrange, and produce the piece. Sometimes they pay for outside talent, sometimes they do not. And then they share the synchronization fees with the composer. And then you still keep your back end of performance royalties, which is a separate revenue stream. Well, this company that I signed an agreement with did not pay an upfront commission fee for composers, and they did not share sync fees. And all I got was basically my performance royalties, which at the time I didn't realize are only generated if a piece of music is broadcast. So I had a piece of music that I wrote and produced that was a vintage gypsy swing tune with French vocals, and it was placed in a video game for EA Games in a World War II Paris nightclub scene. And it got like all these hits on YouTube. I had all these gamers that were asking to like friend me on Facebook and all this stuff. Well, guess what? There's no performance royalties for video games. So guess what I got for that placement? Zero, nothing. Painful lesson to learn. You know, and I kicked myself because that's still one of my favorite pieces of music that I've written, and it's great, but that was like a live and learn kind of experience. So the lesson for me that came out of that, I got real good at understanding legal contracts and what they meant and the fine details of it. And if you guys find yourselves in a position of looking at a contract that is overwhelming, and I know a lot of times they are, the legal language, find someone who can help you go through it. Don't just glaze over and sign whatever, because it's not a good idea. You'll kick yourself. Know what you're signing.
Usually you would recommend a lawyer, somebody familiar with music in the music industry.
Yes, and I don't know, She Is the Music is a nonprofit 501c3 that advocate for music in the music industry, or women in the music industry, and I don't know, do they have access to legal help at all?
Yes.
For
we have
gals?
we have a wonderful her name is Kelly Vallon, and she is our strong female. She handled all of our she's our lawyer, so she handles all of our legal questions and all of that stuff. So we do have somebody in-house that helps provide some guidance on that.
And I'm not sure, but I think there may be resources through BMI, ASCAP, and CSAC. I would say, make sure it's someone reputable, obviously, but if there's that type of assistance, try to tap into something like that if you can.
Okay. Hannah, so back the question, it was more about what do you wish you knew then, and what would you have done differently?
Oh, tricky, very tricky. I don't know. I suppose for me, I don't know. I this is very personal, so don't know how useful it is, but
On the table.
I think it's really important to find a way to balance making money and also to be like really, true to yourself creatively. And And I think in the creative industries, it's very, it's very tough. It's very competitive. And I think the thing for me is just like, I have so much respect for people that really have like followed their, like, singularly, determinedly, doggedly followed their passion. And I think, commerce, corporate over passion. I mean, I train as an opera singer, so I'm always, there's always a part of me that really wants to be on the stage. But it's, so it's like, what would I do differently? Would I really stop with that? I don't know. But I think nothing really. It's all really good. And I think even having that kind of, love of music and love of performing, I think it feeds into kind of, who I am. So I don't know. I'm pretty happy. It's good. I probably actually one thing I probably would have done is moved around a bit more, moved around into different companies and had a much bigger network. I think that's probably one thing that I can really say to, like, people who want to get into this industry, especially writers. It's all about your network. It's all about, I mean, I kind of backtracking on something. It's all about who you know, but it's like creatively, it's musicians that or singers that it's like building that kind of network of your kind of creative team or your kind of creative friends around you. That it's essential. And I suppose I probably wouldn't have been at EMI for like 13 years. I probably would have, moved. But it was such a good job that constantly kept evolving. It started off as one label and kind of ended up as 12, and it was just became something completely different from what it was when I started. So
you shifted with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Situation. And some people, I've even found in my career, hopping and having, working at several different places really does help you meet more people and have different, different connections and learn different aspects of the business and how different processes and different companies are working. So for young women that are trying, work on the business side of things, I think, having loyalty is definitely very, very important, and what's best for you and your well-being. And it doesn't even have to be changing jobs. It can be, just engaging in different activities, in different groups. She is in music, to just be able to expand your network.
Yeah, and to keep learning. I think that's probably the most important thing, really, is to, the process of one person or the process of one company isn't, it is the right thing, but there's so many other ways. And, if you've got the ability to see across all of those different things and then learn and then become your own thing, I think that's probably, that's got to be the best of all worlds, I think, personally. So those are my two things.
Miss Christina, what was your
I was super fortunate to know what I wanted to do in this business very early on the corporate side of things at a music company. But I think for a lot of my friends that are in the music industry, they didn't and still don't know exactly what it is they want to do. So I think it's important to remember that it's not necessarily a straight path, it's a winding road, and to be open to, like I touched on earlier, other aspects of the industry that you might not have imagined yourself in. Open yourself up to meeting other people that, work in different fields, and just being open and open-minded to new possibilities. But no, I do feel pretty lucky to be able to be in a position that I'm in, doing exactly what I hoped to be doing at this point in my career. So I think I'm probably one of the few people that wouldn't have changed much. Yeah.
Christina, I have a question for you. I would love to know a little bit more about FirstCom, which is the company you work for. Your Future is Female, Her Universe initiative. You want to give us a little bit of backstory on that?
Yeah, of course. The Future is Female is a dedicated effort from FirstCom to create a more diverse and inclusive environment for women in production music, by championing underrepresented communities in our field, such as engineers or songwriters and producers. We can build a more empowered catalog that shines light on their talent and their work, And I think it's really our hope that this initiative, with this initiative, we do our part as an industry leader to help balance the scales. And so I think working with, organizations like She Is the Music and what we're doing today is really exactly what we hoped would happen and we hope continue to do in the future.
Amazing. Is there a place where people can go to learn more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. On our website, firstcom.com, there's a campaign page for the initiative. We just recently launched. We launched with an album of the same name, Future is Female. And it features 6 new women that are introduced into the FirstCom catalog. And that's just the first project, and there's so many more to come. And as we start releasing more projects, they'll be added to that page, and you can read a little bit more about the campaign and the women that we work with on our website.
Amazing. And if is there a way if people want to get involved, or are you opening up submissions, or how does that work?
Absolutely. I mean, we have a music submissions inbox on our website. It's super easy. I'll link it actually in the chat so that people can go there and submit their music. And you can always reach out to me directly. I'd love to connect with you if you're a female songwriter or producer, engineer, and artist. And just see if there's any possibilities of working together.
Amazing. Great. So I have one more question. And it is, what advice would you give to females early in their career wanting to get into film and TV music production?
Learn to produce your own music. Do your part to be as self-sufficient as possible, I think, in this industry. And on the production music side of things, if you're looking to compose music, it's crucial to realize that I think the music found in these catalogs functions slightly different from a conventional song. So while we do produce commercial sounding music, much of the music we produce is designed to enhance other elements of a visual, such as dialogue. So something like that is super important to remember when you're submitting music or composing music for a production music library.
Hannah?
I would say, so from the kind of pure bespoke composition for film and TV, I think one of the a lot of the really great composers that are now doing a lot of the kind of TV and film work in the UK, and I think this is a kind of tried and tested, pathway, but it's surprising how many people don't really know about it. But if it was me, I'd find composers that are working in their field that are, either concert work or film and TV work that you love and you respect, and see if you can, get work as their assistant, whether it's in the studio or whether it's on the production side, and learn and shadow a composer that's, that's got a lot of experience that will kind of bring you under, under their kind of wing, and that's the way to get experience on film and TV projects. And as I said before, I think the other thing is film schools. So I think the most important thing about being a film and TV composer is growing with the directors and growing with your production team, basically, because essentially everything in this business is about trust. And when they commission you as a composer to do a film and TV score, it's a big risk. It's an unknown. They're asking you to create something that they don't even know exists in their head. So I think if you build those relationships early and work with young directors, work with people in film schools or people that are doing anything that you find interesting creatively, that's a really important thing. And then my final thing, I'll stop talking, but I think production music, it's an amazing place to earn money, build relationships, and also really learn and hone your skills as a writer. So for me, I think it's those 3 things if you really want to kind of be working in that kind of, music for picture world before you start trying to go out professionally, as it were.
Marti?
I agree with everything that's been said so far. I want to just give kind of a plug for the production music world. One of the very cool things about writing for production music is just the huge range of styles that I'm able to write and arrange and produce in. And I love that. I think that's awesome. So that's a huge benefit. And a really big piece of advice I would give to a man or a woman wanting to get into this is find a few trusted people that are truly objective to help identify what you're best at. Don't ask everyone on your social media platform. Don't just ask your mom. It's really important to have a good sense of what else is out there that you're up against and where your strengths are, and then play to those strengths and minimize your weaknesses. For example, I absolutely suck at doing extreme sports like giant guitars, big drums. I don't do it well. That's just not my thing. I don't enjoy it. I'm not good at it. Years and years ago, that a lot of news packages had that sort of musical genre, and I was trying to do it, and I finally just went, you know what, I'm not good at this. And I sort of found my niches of things that I enjoy and that I'm naturally really good at. And so that's kind of where I focus. And that's what, there's 3 or 4 things that people use me for. So try to identify that and play to your strengths.
I love that. I love that so much. So I think if we, Marti, Hannah, and Christina, if we want to put your bios and your contact information again into the chat box for anybody that may have just joined midway, so that if they have additional questions that they can reach out. Thank you to everybody who joined. I hope that you all found this beneficial, and I loved being able to hear all of the insights from you guys. This is so important, and it's so important for us to share all of your knowledge with all of these young women who are trying to navigate and make their way and to make a name for themselves. You guys are an inspiration to myself and to our community, and we greatly, greatly appreciate you guys taking the time out to do this. Thank you guys for joining. Feel free, follow us on She Is Music on Instagram and Twitter, and follow our ladies to see their journeys in their careers.
Thank you so much. And you guys can also follow FirstCom on Instagram at FirstCom Music. We would love to connect with you.
Perfect.
Yeah, so please do get in touch. We are always looking for new writers, always looking for new producers, always looking for new songwriters. So please, I'm going to put my details on there again. So please do get in touch. And if you want any advice or help, or even in terms of show reels or anything, just reach out.
I second that. Feel free to reach out. Happy
Amazing. And then a little tip is next week we're going to be doing a similar Zoom panel with human resources experts at a lot of music industry companies. I think we've got some Universal, we've got some Spotify. So tune in next week and watch out for some more information on that on our She's Music Instagram. Thank you, ladies.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Taylor.
Thank you.
Thank you.